The following reflection is entitled Teaching as Feeding. It was first published on the Anchored Argosy. In evaluating Christian teaching, merely considering the truth value of isolated statements or the accuracy of certain teachings is not sufficient. Recognition of this reality will both make us more alert to forms of damaging teaching and wiser in our teaching of others. Christian teaching is often compared to food in Holy Scripture and elsewhere. As with food, there are errors that can be apparent within an individual's serving or teaching. However, many errors only become apparent when one considers a longer-term diet. There are teachers who serve teaching that, taken by itself, might be very worthwhile, yet as they keep serving the same narrow teaching and fail to serve other much needed or counterbalancing teaching, they communicate a form of error and their hearers will be malnourished. You cannot say everything at once, nor should you try to. However, over time you should say a lot of things that help people properly to understand aspects of your teaching that, taken by themselves, are not balanced, yet may be important parts of a balanced diet. It may often be necessary to express a point in a more forceful and less qualified way, while providing qualifications and a sense of how it fits into a more balanced picture elsewhere. The analogy of teaching and feeding people also highlights the importance of taking responsibility for our hearers' spiritual health and providing them with a good and balanced diet. One thing that has become more apparent to me over time is that many people, especially online, merely consume teachings according to their appetites, and so will selectively latch onto elements of teaching that appeal to them, while refusing the greens, those less appetizing teachings that are nonetheless essential for a balanced diet. This is one reason why pastors are so important. Random teachers online can be like fast food restaurants. They can serve highly appetizing teachings, often because they take no responsibility for their customers' wider diet. There may be nothing inherently wrong with an individual serving of their teaching, yet if you were to start living off such teaching, it would soon prove very unhealthy. I have written about my own experience of severe spiritual malnutrition through consuming far too much of certain non-essential elements of a Christian diet, while neglecting the essentials. Especially in the context of the religious marketplace created by mass and social media, it is very easy for teachers to gain prominence and large audiences through some special source of their own that they add to their teaching. Everything they teach will have that distinctive flavoring, often catering to an appetite for confirmation in some identitarian or ideological position. Teaching might consistently return to feminist or masculinist themes, for instance, so that it is more appealing to one sex or the other. In a restaurant, every individual typically gets to choose whatever dish seems most appetizing to them. However, when eating at the family meal table, everyone needs to eat much the same thing. The dishes cannot cater for individuals' food fads, and picky eaters are rightly judged. A pastor's teaching needs to feed the 70-year-old grandmother in the congregation, not merely the 16-year-old boy. While each person may inhabit the teaching differently, according to their different needs and circumstances, the teaching itself should be Catholic, and as such a source of unity and commonality. A further consideration beyond that of the diet of a family is its food culture, the way it practices and understands food production, preparation, and eating. Even where all the elements of a balanced diet may be present in a family, it is still possible to have a disordered relationship with food, failure to eat together, hurried eating, anxieties and disorders around diet and weight, ingratitude, resistance to eating certain unfavored foods, overeating and under-exercising, constant snacking, are all problems that might have analogies in relation to Christian teaching, perhaps especially in contexts where the ease of access to teachings for us so exceeds our involvement in contexts of practice. We can constantly snack on appetizing Christian teachings online while failing to metabolize them through practice. When people have experienced contexts where, despite broad orthodox teaching, feeding on that teaching has been an unpleasant chore, where the teaching has consistently been an occasion of division and fighting, where it has not been put into practice, or where the goodness of the food has not been matched with care and skill in its preparation, presentation, and the consuming of it, they can often react against the teaching itself. For too many people, their exposure to Christian teaching has been to bland and unappetizing slop. The required nutrients may be present, but little joy is to be found in eating it. As social media creates lots of alienating interactions with people who differ from us, it also encourages a preoccupation with and teaching focused upon the errors of theological opponents. However, such medicinal teaching, which seeks to develop resistance to other groups' errors, is seldom edifying in the way that Christian teaching ought to be. We are raised to be healthy and strong chiefly by a full and balanced diet of solid food, rather than by lots of medicines designed to protect us from all diseases. Health requires more than the counteracting of disease. There are occasions when we will need medicine, but such occasions are exceptional. Likewise, spiritual health comes chiefly not from a diet of medicine against all errors that are circulating, but from regular servings of balanced Christian teaching. When people see some disease or error in the church at large or in wider society, they can get invested in crusades against it. In such situations, it is easy for the breadth of a healthy Christian diet to be abandoned. The immediate perceived problem at hand becomes such a preoccupation that all teaching starts to be distorted in reaction to it. This problem is exacerbated as the people who become preoccupied with such diseases often end up addicted to the medicine. Repeatedly hearing about the evils of our opponents and the magnitude of their errors can give us a rush of self-righteousness and justified anger, but it is seldom good for us. Medicines, if they are to be of service to health, need to be carefully prescribed and also kept out of the hands of people who would abuse them. Once again, this is one of the challenges of an online context where audiences are vague and largely self-selecting. It is difficult to prescribe more medicinal truths effectively in such a context. It is also possible to take certain much-needed medicinal teachings and treat them as universal remedies, or viewing an increasing array of disorders as downstream of the problems that they are designed to address. The point can come when people who adopt such an approach have moved from overhyping a valuable treatment to becoming akin to snake oil salesmen. Likewise, as such medicinal teachings so often address dysfunctions that are endemic in some opposing camp, a preoccupation with them can often come with a resistance to applying closely related medicinal teachings to one's own camp. I have remarked upon the dangers of this with the currently popular empathy critique, for instance. In its original form in Edwin Friedman's work, the critique has a much broader application than it is currently given in the work of those who use it to focus upon the errors of those to their left, with many natural and searching applications to dysfunctions on the right. While such a medicinal teaching may be appropriately prescribed to many people on the left, if health rather than partisanship is our primary concern, it will be extensively prescribed to characteristically right-leaning diseases. It will also be accompanied by an edifying balanced diet that produces health and resilience that reaches much deeper than partisan concerns. Christian teachers, especially pastors, have a calling to feed people a full and balanced diet of truth in a form that encourages them to delight in it. They need to provide them with occasional well-prescribed medicinal teachings against widespread errors without being preoccupied about ill health, allowing such teachings to displace positive teaching or to prescribe according to the appetite of hearers. Recognizing the value of faithful pastors and the distinctive role that they perform in this area should lead us to accord them special honor and to be more mindful of the dangers that can accompany some other forms of Christian teaching, especially if we are engaged in it. And here I speak chiefly to myself. If you'd like to read this and other of my free reflections, you can do so on my Substack, The Anchored Argosy. Like my material here, this material is free for all and is supported by generous donations. If you'd like to support my work, you can do so using my Patreon or PayPal accounts. The links are below. God bless, and thank you very much for listening.